Express yourself. Those are two words we cling to, spring to, that ring to some unheard of in our ears, some new and exciting, strange yet inviting call. It becomes do that or do nothing at all, and she said, express yourself. And as if answering the voice in my head, I'm like, but mama, I am, like, with these here high heel shoes. You know, I like to wear them just right, too tight, too small to fit my feet and really to handle my stride. And I'm wobbling a little bit, but never mind, this is me. This is the real me. This is the grown me. The me I want to be, see, just like this girl in this here magazine with this makeup smeared across my face, this eyeliner, this borrowed facial powder, this luscious blush, because I want to be delicious like this here cute blue bow, or this Christmas design I painted on my toes, this ice, this pricey bag of jeans. Express yourself. This is what you mean, right? You told me to, ooh. And it's like, in the midst of all the lies we may choose to believe, you never forget the voice of the woman that told you the truth, because a voice that could only be my mother's arises like gifts from my childhood and unearthly prizes. She says, no, baby, what I told you to do is to express yourself, not to advertise a line for somebody else, not to dream what someone else told you to, but to do what your heart told you to do. Did you listen? Express yourself like the air in your lungs, because each time you breathe, you move, you leave, you're sharing your atoms with somebody else. Express yourself like give a piece of you to someone else today, package it nicely, put it in the mail, 1,000 stamps, pay the extra fee, and send it express, make haste. There is no time to waste. Like, why are we waiting? Twiddling our thumbs, spectating the idol of someone else's stardom. When we leave that spectatorship behind, we become spectacular. When you leave that spectatorship behind, you become spectacular. The bravest expression of beauty and wonder that is infinitely grand, undoubtedly different. So search your heart and get to know you. And even when you are doing the exact same thing as somebody else, baby, you're going to do it different because you're you, because you're part of a body, but you're part of a race. So make haste to one of a kind and express from some heavenly place. None on earth can fathom that you, the real you, are going to blow their minds. I wrote that poem 10 years ago. And as upbeat as it is, and as empowered as I feel when I perform it, when I wrote it, I was actually grieving the death of my father. See, I was a caretaker for my father as a teenager for 3 years before he died. And so getting back into a place where I was feeling like myself again was quite a journey for me. When I wrote this poem, I was not feeling empowered. No, I felt powerless, unseen, unheard, unthought of, silent. I remember sitting cross-legged in bed in my childhood home, feeling alone. I wrote this poem in tears that streamed through everything. But in that place of my pain and my grief, I learned that tears were not the only thing that could be produced from a place of pain. I began to baptize myself in the rhythm, the words, and the musical sounds of poets like Maya Angelou and Maida Del Valle and Joshua Bennett. And soon I began to see myself in their words, their stories, and the power of their voices. Their words were like so akin to the improvisations of jazz and the lyrical levitations of rap. Their words were my own personal therapy session, couching me, cocooning me. Their words created this cocoon of transformation around me, and it saved me in the midst of my deepest, darkest depressions, through breakups and breakdowns, through death, grief, loss, the death of my father. Looking back on those poems, I realized that I was literally writing the things that I needed to hear in my critical moment, and perhaps that someone else needed to hear in theirs. I go using this realization in every space that I am in. I am an arts and health professional. I am a university faculty member. I am a songwriter, a dancer, and a spoken word performer. And I have been a catalyst for new arts programming in health contexts for the last 12 years. But no matter the space, my role has always been to enter into the critical moments in other people's lives and to infuse those moments with some of the best medicine that I know of for the human soul, and that's the arts. And I've done that through programs like founding and directing the Dance for Parkinson's program at Duke about a decade ago, which has since become a part of a collaborative initiative here. And I watch in these spaces the ways that these incredible individuals, they turn limitation into new capacity every time they dance. It's something so, so spectacular to watch. And I've also done it working with incarcerated youth in the juvenile justice system through things like visual arts and dance and movement and journaling, creative writing, poetry. And I've seen the ways in which they are turning this moment in their lives into an opportunity for themselves to start to become, in the midst of their critical moment, beyond the confines of circumstance. A critical moment is a moment when our being has a choice to make. It is a moment where we've got a lot of transition to go through, or it's a moment of crisis or loneliness. It's a moment where so much of us has been stripped away that we can either succumb to it or we are remade, transformed. And as an artist working in health, I see those moments, typically when someone is diagnosed with a debilitating condition, or when someone is incarcerated or sentenced to time in a detention facility, or when they're admitted to a hospital, right? But the thing that's happening in these times is that who that person is often gets put to the back seat of their predicament. And so they start to lose pieces of their identity slowly but surely in those spaces, right? But in those times, the opportunity that we have to actually bring the arts into those spaces, what it does is it improves, it brings this sense of levity, light, and laughter in places where it maybe would have seemed impossible before. And that's the power of the arts, to come into those kinds of spaces. And so I've seen this at work with the young people that I worked with in juvenile justice. So imagine walking into a room of 28 teenage girls. They're all leaning over these desks in a classroom, excitedly sharing their stories with one another, some of them for the very first time. What I would do is I'd walk into these spaces and try to create these kinds of moments where we could listen to the highs and lows of their weeks, and also where I could introduce art forms to them so that they could then start to see how the arts could touch this specific moment in their lives. And because we were infusing things like creative writing and culturally relevant art forms, they were naturally infusing the art that they were making with their personal, powerful messages that they most wanted to share in those times. So when you hear a 15-year-old girl who has been bullied time and again, who's been on drugs, and who has been told time and time again that she was worth nothing, even by her family members, when you see her stand proudly in front of an audience of her peers and say, "Don't let anyone tell you what you are worth," that's when you know the power of the arts to amplify their voices and stories. Or when you see a 14-year-old girl, a fiery 14-year-old, who trades in fighting for friendship with the girls, because she was sitting in a story circle and started to hear that her stories were also more alike with the other girls and they were different. You start to see the opportunity that we have to create these spaces where we can build community, even in places where people are often feeling utterly alone. I would hear from these girls that they desperately desired a place to be fully expressed, because separated from their family and their friends and even from themselves, they had a choice to make. They could let this moment confine them, define them, or refine them. And I've watched young people choose refinement and transformation time and time again. While the arts are not the only solution, when it comes to health, the arts are often an overlooked opportunity to help people take control and ownership over their own life trajectories. But when we actually align them with things like clinical care and mental health services, we start to see how the ways that the arts amplify voices actually enables them to be in the driver's seat and take authorship over their own transformative process as an active participant in their care. And so this kind of power that the arts has and the ways that it brings us together and connects us more than divides us, the ways that enables us to find empathy for ourselves, for one another, and for our shared humanity, is something that could change healthcare and other sectors as we know it, if we let it. And it's the thing that we actually really need in these times. This is an invitation to write for your life. This is an invitation to take ownership and hone your own voice. You may have heard this call before, but I'm saying it now because we too are in a critical moment. We are in a crisis of loneliness, as our former Surgeon General Murthy said. And we have yet to process fully what the impacts of this pandemic are for all of us. And as a global collective body, we are not rested. We stay in a space where we're constantly trying to stay up to pace with an accelerated existence. But how often are we really taking the time to breathe, to be, to feel, and to listen for what comes next? This is my charge to you. While you may not become a writer, a professional writer, or work in a prison facility or in a hospital, my charge to you is this. This is what I hope that you'll remember if you choose to use the tool of writing in a time of transition. 1, writing helps us to witness, right? It helps us to see ourselves and to see others. It helps us to see our shared humanity and to be human with one another again. Writing also helps us to reflect. It helps us to be able to take a look at what's happened in our past and also take a look at where we're headed. Writing also gives us a power of interpretation, which is an incredibly powerful tool because that tool specifically enables us to make meaning of the past situations and come into a healthier relationship with them. And then we start to see, I'm not what happened to me. I am the revelation that is happening through me, and I get to capture that and carry it forward. Writing also enables us to try on anything new, really. It can help us to try on a new perspective or a new identity, something like gratitude, some kind of feeling that we want to feel greater into in our lives. And finally, writing helps us to exhale. Somebody try that with me. Exhale, right? Because sometimes there might be something that we need to release. I don't know who might need to hear that word, but there might be something, is there something in your life today that you need to let go of? Writing is a chance to let something go. So definitely, as if you decide to try writing, lead with curiosity, release your inner or outer critic, really focus in on you and on honing and embracing your authentic voice, and write to know yourself as worthy, write to become more you. You are the alphabets personified, a penmanship made deified, co-authors of a sequel until the people equal dignified. Why we don't pick up on it sooner or wield the power in our grasp is a mystery with history, a word picture from our past, but now the commas and a coma, and the periods protest. Rhetorical revolution marks our exclamation with a point. There is something in this punctuation begs us, get up out this joint, so whatever hold or cage you might be facing, let it face you toward amazing, because you are, and so you must. We are amazing, and so we must. And maybe for some reason we couldn't see it at first light, but out of void and out of darkness, we too were written, so let's write.